Construction of the Durango to Silverton Railroad was started in the autumn of 1881 and completed only 9 months later in the spring of 1882. We can only marvel as to how it ever came to be built at all. A railroad was crucial to service the mining industry around Silverton and to transport gold and silver and other minerals out of the San Juan Mountains. It was far too costly and dangerous for the miners to use the mountain roads, such as they were, and the decision was made to extend the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad north to Silverton. It was a real feat of engineering, owing its success to the vision of General William Jackson Palmer, the driving force behind the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad Company. Palmer was determined to drive the railroad through, but he certainly had to overcome some obstacles. The track climbs more than 3,000 feet over a distance of 45 rugged miles, reaching an elevation of more than 9,300 feet above sea level. The aptly named Highline section of track along the precipitous cliffs of the Animas Canyon could have meant rejection of the whole scheme by the railroad company board, had they known about it in advance. Palmer decided to build the track first and tell them about it afterwards. The railroad was an immediate success, and it is estimated that $300 million in precious metals have been transported over this route since it opened in 1882. But what a turbulent history! The crash in the price of silver in 1893, followed by all sorts of challenges in the first half of the 20th century, rock slides, floods, snow, wars and financial instability, put the Silverton branch in real danger of being abandoned. Then around 1950, Hollywood discovered the railroad. Over the following 20 years, many movies were filmed in the area, showcasing the train. Around the World in 80 Days and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, to name just a couple, and the future of the railroad looked brighter. But for every up, there's a down, and in 1969, the Denver and Rio Grande network abandoned all the tracks south of Durango, isolating the Durango-Silverton line and leaving its future once again in question. Fortunately, a succession of enthusiastic new owners, Charles Bradshaw Jr. in 1981, and the current owners, American Heritage Railways, who took over in 1998, renovated the railroad to build on the scenic tourist railroad industry. During the late 90s, passenger numbers peaked at around 200,000 per year. And so today we can still ride the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad, pulled by a beautifully preserved 1920s vintage steam locomotive. The route to Silverton is an unforgettable journey along the spectacular Animas River Valley. The Animas River is one of the last free-flowing rivers in the western United States, and it is truly wild. It gets its name, Rio de las Animas Perdidas, meaning the River of Lost Souls, from the Spanish explorers Escalante and Dominguez in 1776. At a top speed of 18 miles per hour, and with 2 stops to take on water, the train takes 3.5 hours to travel the 45 miles from Durango to Silverton. For a round trip to Silverton, a fireman shovels 6 tons of coal, 10,000 gallons of water being used to produce the steam to power the locomotive. At these elevations, weather conditions are a threat, and a full service operates only during the summer season, May through October. During the winter, snow closes the track at the higher elevations, and a shorter trip of around 26 miles is only available. Narrow gauge track was used here because the construction was cheaper, the equipment cost less, and the narrow gauge was better suited to the sharper curves of the mountain terrain. Narrow gauge rails are 3 feet apart, while standard gauge rails, based on Roman chariot wheel span, are much wider at 4 feet 8½ inches apart. Silverton is amazing. It nestles in a mountain basin at an elevation of 9,300 feet, and although there are no longer any operating mines, the mining legacy is still apparent all over the town. While the well-preserved elaborate Victorian architecture reflects the millions of dollars drawn from the earth during the mining boom at the turn of the century, Silverton's roads certainly don't reflect the town's former wealth. Only the main street is paved. All other roads in the town are the original dirt roads. It's well worth the long trip just to experience a couple of hours of real nostalgia. So as the train leaves Silverton, after our step back in time, just sit back and enjoy the return trip to Durango on board the world famous Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad.